Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. So today we are on episode 6 of Cloak and Dagger. And as usual, if you are new to this channel, please go ahead and click the subscribe button and also hit the bell for notifications so that you know every time we do a new video.
I really like this episode. I feel like there's a lot going on in this episode, but it all definitely continues to push the story along and push the narrative of both of these characters as well as some other characters. We started this episode in a brand new way that we didn't start out any other episode, and that's with Yvetta and her aunt basically getting ready to start this voodoo ritual. And I thought that was really, really interesting because other than the episode of with Tyrone and Yvetta going to meet her aunt for the first time and him going through that whole, type of voodoo ceremony thing to kind of figure out his powers and things like that, we haven't seen much of her. So to start off the episode was really, really cool and really, really a real good way of just kind of setting a tone for the type of episode that we were about to have. And basically they're going through this, her aunt is conducting this entire ritual basically surrounding Tyrone because ever since Tyrone came and visited her the first time, she's been able to see that there's something about him, something mysterious, something, I think she's even called it dark or just something about him that she feels like is worth investigating. Right. And for me, it was really, it left an impact because I have like a weird feeling about Yvetta. Like there's just something about her that's a little, as it's funny, and I guess it's a little ironic, while they think there's something mysterious about Tyrone, I think there's something equally mysterious about her, because we don't really know much about her except the fact that she really likes him. And it kind of just...
You're just suspicious.
It's one of those weird things where, there's this pretty girl that's in Tyrone's life, and she's just always kind of there, and she's always... I don't know, it just seems a little too odd.
She's always there.
It's just something that's a little odd to me about her presence and just her interest in Tyrone. And I don't think it's as innocent as it comes across at times. And I think this episode, even when the conversation that her and her aunt are having are very telling. And it kind of brings to your mind that there are certain things about, like, Yvetta has yet to tell Tyrone that her aunt is interested in him and in what way that she's interested in him. And so to me, that's very telling. One of our commenters in our last video actually left a comment, because I mentioned this in the last episode, where they left a comment actually pointing out something that's also very telling, is that in Tyrone's life, everybody that he's kind of come into physical contact with so far, he's been able to see some fear of theirs. And we've seen him and Yvetta touch a lot so far in these last 6 episodes, and he has not seen one fear of hers.
That is suspicious.
And so I find that a little suspicious that he hasn't picked up on any type of fear of hers. But yeah, so we kind of see, it's not just the beginning of the episode, those scenes with her and her aunt are kind of sprinkled throughout the episode, and they're really good ways of breaking up some of the other drama that's going on, either involving Tandy or Tyrone, or we also get some Detective O'Reilly and Detective Connors in this episode as well. So it breaks up a lot of the drama with them. Yeah. And providing this subtle undertone of, hey, there's something going on in New Orleans, and from all they know is that it involves Tyrone. Right. So I thought that was really, really cool, really, really telling. Another thing that happens right after the scene, and I got to bring this up just because this is I think this is 3 episodes in a row, and I keep getting caught off guard by it. Like, these subtle sex scenes that they just kind of sprinkle in there.
Oh my goodness.
Are just catching me off guard every single time. And I'm invested in the show. I'm like, wow, this is a really impactful conversation. And then boom, somebody's having sex or somebody's finishing having sex. And it's just man, you guys keep getting me.
Welcome to Freeform.
It's funny. This one was obviously particularly funny because it's like a gotcha moment. Because
yeah,
it's one of those scenes where
that was on purpose, definitely.
Yeah, they set it up to make it look like, all you see is a black guy with a blonde-haired, light-skinned girl, and it looked like Tandy and Tyrone. And the first thing I thought was, somebody's dreaming. Somebody is clearly dreaming. I just wanted to know which one of them was having the wet dream. And then it turned out to be neither one of them. It turned out to be Tyrone's brother's friend Dwayne and his light-skinned girlfriend who has blonde hair. So that was a really good gotcha moment. But after that, we kind of get into, I mean, since we're talking about Tyrone, we're getting into Tyrone's part of the episode where a lot of his is basically, we're picking up where he left off in the last episode, where he found out that Dwayne is actually connected to Detective Connors.
Right.
And Tyrone just wants to know, is basically going into his deep detective mode of trying to figure out, okay, how are you guys connected and why are you guys connected? And that's a lot of what this episode is about on Tyrone's perspective, is that Tyrone is, first of all, trying to get into Dwayne's business because he knows that, okay, the business that he told him about in last episode isn't all legitimate. There is some underdealing, some drug dealing going on. And so, thanks to Tandy's help, I guess in a way, a little bit of her advice, Tyrone finally figures out, you know what, I need to get into his business. I need to get into that side of the business if I ever expect to figure out what's going on with Dwayne, if I ever expect to figure out how he's connected to Detective Connors.
Right.
Which unfortunately he finds out. And this is the thing that I'm kind of finding is like a repetitive thing with Tyrone. Tyrone continues to get the information he needs, I feel like, but it always comes at like the detriment of either himself or others.
That's because he's the black guy in the show.
And yeah, and that's very much the case. We find out that he ends up finding out through, like I said, he somehow he finds a way of getting into this portion of Dwayne's business by exploiting one of his workers' fears,
right?
Which we're going to talk about a little bit later in this video. But he exploits that fear and is able to get into Dwayne's business. And him and Dwayne have a really honest heart-to-heart, not just about the business, but about, you know, how Dwayne was able to set up this business, how Dwayne basically built this business on the back of his brother's death.
Yeah.
And then they even have some real life conversation, which I always appreciate about this show, where they were able to have a conversation about like justice and society, and that was really, really cool, because as Dwayne may be this bad guy who's dealing drugs, he's also very insightful, and he's very quote unquote woke, and he's very aware of society and of how things and how the system is played against black people.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool and refreshing. But as I was saying, Tyrone ends up getting the information he needs. He gets some clarity. He understands how Dwayne and Detective Connors are connected, but it comes at the cost, it feels like, of Dwayne's life.
Yeah.
Because basically Tyrone finds out that Dwayne is well aware that Detective Connors killed Billy. He was there that night. He witnessed everything. And before Tyrone can really, really convince him to like, hey, you need to come forward with me and testify, Dwayne loses his life. Which I have to ask you, do you think that was the plan all along?
That's what I'm confused about. It seems like that was the plan, but then maybe she was just quick
to the draw?
Yeah.
It was really odd.
I hope that they address it the next episode, because I've been wondering that this whole time. Like, was that the whole plan, or was she just real quick?
Right, because basically Detective O'Reilly comes into the warehouse as Connors is talking to Dwayne, and Connors was trying to set Dwayne up to kill, or at least the way it was set up in the scene was, I'm trying to give you a jump start on her so that you can kill her. But Detective O'Reilly comes in so quick, and it's like, come through the door
and shoot.
It happened so quickly. That I'm saying with you, I don't know if that was the plan. I don't know if he was the target or if she was really the target and she just got the jump on him first. But that's just another, so once again, Dwayne has to see somebody that he cares about, somebody that's very connected to him, die, and once again at the hand of the police officer. And I think this one's gonna hurt even more because it's Detective O'Reilly that's done the shooting, and he was supposed to be trying to trust her.
Yeah.
So I wonder how that's all gonna play out in the end. So that's a large portion of Tyrone's story. On the flip side, we have Tandy, who I feel like this episode, things are a little bit better for Tandy. I think a lot of, like in other episodes, Tandy's had good starts, but then it's kind of finished the same way Tyrone's have, where it's on a sour note. Tandy, for the most part, has a really good episode because she's exploring and continuing her investigation into Roxxon Corp, and now she's exploiting a worker at Roxxon whose father used to work with her dad. And the girl she's connecting with is this girl named Mina Hess, who is a biologist, or and basically Tandy is exploiting is posing as an intern, and is basically asking all these different questions about her dad, about Mina's dad, the work they were doing, and Roxanne's involvement. And her and Tyrone, before she does this internship, they have a conversation, and Tyrone basically tells her, like, hey, maybe this is an opportunity for you to make a friend. But which we know how but we know Tandy's whole mindset about friends and connecting with other people. She'd rather keep people at an arm's distance. She looks at everybody as a tool or as a mark. Yeah. And as the same way she tries to view Mina, but I can tell you guys honestly, like, I feel like her mindset was changing the longer and the more conversation she had with Mina, where she went from being a mark to being somebody that I think she really did start to care about, and she started to witness and realize that maybe they're not too different. Yeah. That they're just, I guess in a way, they're just opposite sides of a coin. Right. Which is really cool, because one thing that we've seen so far these last couple episodes is that Tandy's not afraid to use her powers. She's not afraid to exploit people's hopes and dreams to get the information she needs. And she actually hesitates to even do that with Mina, even though she had an opportunity to. And she's just like, and she's even hesitant when she finally gets to meet Mina's father, who we find out is brain dead in a sense, or gone crazy or something like that. She's even kind of hesitant to use her powers against him, because she's realizing that these people are also victims, like she is. So that is really cool to see kind of Tandy's growth in that sense. Yeah. But then when Tandy finally does use her powers and she's able to see Ivan Hess's hopes, she's kind of met figuratively or basically with a door. Yeah. That is shrouded in darkness, that is very reminiscent of Tyrone's darkness, which is basically a reflection of fear. And this is the first time that Tandy's not able to get the answers that she wants by herself. So obviously next episode we're probably going to definitely see her and Tyrone together trying to use their powers at the same time.
That's going to be interesting.
That's going to be really, really cool, and I'm going to be really interested in seeing their dialogue and how that's kind of explained or how that's kind of showcased. Yeah. Another thing that happens in this episode, we didn't get to talk about it much last episode because we were just kind of rushing. Detective O'Reilly and Detective Connors. For those of you guys who didn't get to see last episode, Detective O'Reilly is now hot on the heels of Detective Connors. And she's trying to do it in a detective type way, in a sneaky way of trying to figure out, okay, how is he dealing drugs? Who is he connected to? Yeah. And how is he doing this whole thing? And we get to see a lot of that, of seeing her undercover work in this episode. But like I said, and we talked about earlier, it does kind of go bad because it leads to the death of Dwayne. Right. But I don't think Detective O'Reilly is caught off guard at all. And I also don't think Detective Connors is as foolish as he comes off sometimes. Yeah. Like, I think he's very much aware that O'Reilly is kind of looking into him a little bit.
I think so too.
Which is why we see another detective or another cop who Detective O'Reilly is intimate with, kind of warning her, like, you need to kind of be careful of how close you're getting. Right. Because I think he calls it like a fire hazard or something like that. Like, he's flammable.
Flammable, that's what he says.
It's flammable. That's something that I'm really looking forward to as the season kind of progresses as well. And the last thing, so I wanted to touch on this really, really quickly, because this is something we haven't seen yet, or seen as often in this episode, is Tyrone's ability, when he uses his ability to see this other kid's fears. I feel like we've always been able to know what Tyrone is seeing and what type of fears are being projected. This was one that I'm lost.
Strange.
I am so confused about what it is. I have a theory on what it is, but I'm completely like caught off guard.
Just share it in the comments.
And I guess I will. Yeah.
We want to know what you think, and then he'll share his in the comments.
Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we will make sure to comment back. Like always. But like always, we will see you guys next week, episode 7 of Cloak and Dagger, and we will have another review for you guys.